Do you know what a no man's land is? A no man's land is that stretch of land between two armies or two countries that no man wants to go in there because you're going to pretty much end up dead. Probably the most famous no man's land in our time right now is called the DMZ, the Demilitarized Zone. It's a 2.5 mile stretch of land between North and South Korea where you don't want to be, because if you do, you go there, you're going to die. Probably the most famous, though, no man's land in the Old Testament is the Valley of Elah. It's a stretch of valley where on the one side were the Israelites, and the other side were the Philistines, and no man wanted to go in that center section, with the exception of one. One man stood in there. His name is Goliath, a behemoth, a mountain of a man, 9 feet tall. His armor was 120 pounds. Imagine having a small freshman in high school strapped to your back everywhere you went. The tip of his spear was about 15 pounds. Grab a bowling ball next time you're out bowling, spear it, and then try to use that as a weapon. This guy is huge. No one would go in there, with the exception of David. David looked at Goliath, a man that was defiling the Almighty God. David's looking at everyone on his side of Israel, cowering in fear and realizing they forgot something. God always wins. So David goes down and he fights this man, but David realizes a few things. David plays to his strength. He doesn't use a sword. He's not used to it. He uses a sling and rocks. He gets 5 rocks, not just one. He expects it might take a little while, but he grabs 5 rocks, not 50. He expects God's going to give the victory. God always wins. David knows his weaknesses. He doesn't wear armor. That's just not him. But David knows his ultimate strength is in God. And he shouts that. He shouts it before Goliath in 1 Samuel. He says to Goliath, "I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty." David knew that God always wins, and David was given the victory by the Almighty Lord. I don't know what Goliath of a problem you have in your life. You know what it is. You know where you feel like you're going to fail, where you feel like you are failing, that it's a problem that you just can't get rid of. But God always wins. Play to the strengths that God has given you. Know how God has built you and use those well to deal with these problems that are going on in your life. Know your weaknesses. Don't try to be something that you are not with whatever problem it is in your life. But here's the greatest advice. Trust in the Lord. Go to that problem, stand in front of that problem and shout. Shout as David did, "I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty." And I pray that God gives you a victory in a visible way. And sometimes you will, in the way that you're expecting. And other times God gives a victory in a different way. Maybe through this cancer, it might take you home to heaven, but that's still a victory. Maybe God will have the cancer go away, and that is a victory. God always wins. You want proof? The greatest no man's land there ever was is in the New Testament. And the no man's land is between heaven and earth, as Jesus is suspended there, and no man could survive that. Even God himself died there. But yet we know on Easter Sunday, Christ rose. Christ rose victorious. Why? Because God always wins. Trust the Lord. Trust all your problems, the Goliath of problems you have in your life, and know that God's got you. God's got this, because God always wins. Many of us have been there, experiencing grief from a heavy loss that happened in our life. And when you're in that, it's a dark, dark time. But through those dark moments, God can bring a beautiful light when it's shined on Jesus. That's why I want to tell you about a great new book that we have. It's called Grief Doesn't Have the Last Word. It's written by Pastor Kurt Ebert, who brings his firsthand experience to give you comfort in a time of difficulty that you're in right now. To get your copy, simply click the link in this post.